Yeah, sure. So my name is Cassie Lee, and I am calling in today from Greenville, South Carolina. I have held a variety of different positions in the aerospace industry over the last about 25 years. Started off as a propulsion engineer and now work on the data side, having done all kinds of interesting things in the meantime. A lot of data for good, a lot of supporting a next generation workforce, and even a little bit of climate tech and entertainment. So looking forward to sharing today anything that you think might
Sure.
be beneficial to you and your community.
Yeah, so obviously you've worked in technical roles and then you switched over to like I'd say more strategy and like leading these big projects. So what kind of caused that shift for you? Because I know I've met people in the past who have been really good at technical roles and they stick with it. But then you meet other people like Dr. George Neal who wanted to switch and pivot into like a strategy role. So what caused that shift for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was not part of any grand design. I always wanted to be an engineer. Out of college, I was a propulsion engineer at NASA, and I loved it. It was a really interesting job. I had a fantastic mentor who was the center director at Kennedy Space Center at the time, and he offered me the opportunity to go over to the public affairs department. It was, I'm going to date myself here. It was return to flight after Columbia, and I had worked on the space shuttle main engines. And so we thought I could maybe help with some storytelling around that. And spending that time in the public affairs department just really got me thinking about just the role that I could potentially play in the community, and could it be something different than sort of sitting behind a desk. And I have lots of friends that are still there and are still working on the same kind of programs that we were working on, back in the early 2000s, and having made huge contributions to the technical community through their roles at NASA. For me, I was just really curious. I was curious about how I could bring just some of my skills forward in a different way, and ended up leaving NASA and going to graduate school at CU Boulder, where they allowed me to do a crossover master's in journalism and aerospace. I'm
Hmm.
super grateful for that opportunity because it really allowed me to explore technical communications and storytelling. And I actually went on to teach a course, a build and teach a course there in that topic of technical communications after I had graduated and left to go work at SpaceX, and then came back, and just, really reflecting that there was just so much power in the way that we communicate really complex topics. And so, going back and teaching their master's and PhD students in aerospace, first of all, the importance of communication, and then also kind of how to do it and some tips and tricks. I've heard was really beneficial for the couple of cohorts that I had in that class. And as I started to look at and explore different paths, the communications part was, I was still craving a little bit more technical
Yeah.
work. So I found business development, advanced programs, and strategy really as kind of that next step of having worked in 100% technical roles, 100% non-technical roles, and just really trying to find that middle ground. And that really became a theme in my career.
So how do you thrive like in the business side of like the aerospace world?
Can be tough. It's what's been really interesting is the community and the industry has changed so much over the last 20 years. I mean, I can't tell you how different it is now. And really, one of the key elements of, I think, thriving in that community is having a sense of belonging. And that really is what inspired the Brooke Owens Fellowship and the fellowships that spun out of that work. Because could be kind of a tough place to navigate. There didn't used to be this many options. There didn't used to be this much community, this much growth, and just the accessibility of this community used to be very, very small. And so how do you bring and nurture talent that maybe doesn't have that fast track, maybe didn't get into the MIT, doesn't come from an aerospace town, and really ensure that their unique skills get brought forward into the community? And so that was really that was something that inspired me early on in my career, and something that we hope to help nurture. because it's a very exciting industry to be in, and
Course.
there's a lot to do.
So, could you explain to us, like for the audience who isn't familiar, what the Brooke Owens Fellowship is?
Oh, with pleasure. So the Brooke Owens Fellowship is in its 10th year. It is a nonprofit organization that has evolved over time. When we first started, and for the first 9 years, we offered both paid internships and mentorship, as well as community, and an opportunity to come together for an annual summit. And a lot of those programming features are still in play. With some of the changes in the executive order, we're no longer able to offer the paid internships. But the really cool news is that many of the fellows that were coming to us from around the world already had internships, and they said, we just want to be a part of the community. And so,
Awesome.
this was the whole goal of a fellowship like that is to be overcome by events anyway. You don't want to have a secondary mechanism to create community and belonging. You would love for the industry to just offer that, and to identify both traditional and non-traditional talent sources. And I do think that the community has come a long way. But with the fellowship, we look for things that go beyond the resume. So certainly we're looking for proficiency and technical or non-technical abilities in whatever their chosen course of study is. But we're looking for things like creativity. We are looking for things like community engagement, community service. And with the Brooke Owens Fellowship, we serve the women and gender minority market, and really help to bring those folks together. What's been fascinating about that community is that they have taken on a life of their own in terms of the programming that's offered, the opportunities that's been offered, the communication and the training. Watching, our brookies go off and start nonprofits and businesses together, inviting each other to speak on panels or, hiring opportunities, and certainly friendships and partnerships. And so that's been a really exciting thing to watch that unfold into dimensions that I don't think we could have ever imagined. And I co-founded that program with Lori Garber, the former associate administrator of NASA, and Will Pomerantz, who has been a longtime executive in the industry. And the three of us were really close friends with a woman named Brooke Owens, who has an amazing backstory. And she came from a very small town just outside the Mojave Desert. And unfortunately, she lost a battle with cancer at a very young age. But she was working at the White House Office of Management and Budget when she had to medically retire. And so really made giant waves in the community on that trajectory, on that journey, just created community and belonging along the way. And just everyone that Brooke worked with or knew was just really attracted to her energy, and she brought people together in a way that we really wanted to celebrate that. So, finding the people that had the ability, giving them the opportunity in the industry early, bringing, young folks together. I wish I'd had 10 more years with Brooke, and so how do you take and capture somebody who contributed so much in such a short amount of time, and help to find and nurture like-minded folks and I say like-minded only in the community spirit, in the passion for aviation and space, and in an interest in sort of going outside their own bubble and being part of the industry. And it's been really spectacular to watch. And we have several spinoffs, including one in Canada. So that's been a tremendous opportunity.
That's amazing. So you're also the mentor for Space for Women, is that right?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs and UN Women came together, and they had about 35 women from around the world come together to talk about the perspective of women in aerospace in their nation, and sort of their global thinking around that. And it was a fascinating experience, and something I actually still think about and refer to all the time in my meetings and calls. And I learned a great deal about sort of the global state of affairs in the aerospace community from the perspective of women. And it turned into a mentoring program, and I have mentored a handful of folks from around the world that I'm still keep in touch with and I root for, and that's it's actually been a really positive and beneficial thing professionally as well personally.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now I want to talk about like some of your current stuff that you're working on, like Lockheed Martin, for example. So you work in the weather and remote sensing, is that correct?
I used to. So I Yeah, so there's a little bit of a story arc, and that is I was working in what we'd sort of consider a traditional commercial space program, which now becomes aerospace, and was recruited to go work for Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft. And there we were building an organization called Vulcan Aerospace that was looking at human spaceflight from an air launch from Stratolaunch, which is still up and thriving now as the world's largest aircraft by wingspan. And while I was there working on that program, I was asked to join a meeting on anti-illegal fishing. And I didn't know anything about illegal fishing. I'm from Iowa. I go up. I don't never look down before. And I went to this meeting, and I sort of had this aha moment at the power of what satellites could do in support of these communities around the world, and what we could see, what we had the privilege and vantage of seeing from space. And so I left that meeting and I went and talked to our president, and I just said, I don't know what that is, but that's what I want to do from now on. And it turned out to be really the space data for good, remote sensing, space-based intelligence kind of work that unfortunately Paul passed away. And so I went to Lockheed Martin there, and it was from there, and the idea was if I could go and work on these big global problems like our changing planet, and really take advantage of the perspective that we get from space, then we could do better, and we could protect communities, we could protect lives, we could protect properties. And so that's why I went there. And while I was at Lockheed Martin, I started a program called Climate Intelligence, which was really thinking about how to take all the existing and emerging technology from around the company of Lockheed Martin and apply that to understanding our changing planet. And that it started in the space business area, but I worked in all the other business areas, including their corporate office and with their venture firm as well. And so that was just, really thinking about what are the big levers for change. And certainly, the defense and intelligence community is a huge lever, and how we can be part of the conversation of using them for positive change. I think it's a really powerful thing.
Okay. So do you see aerospace, like aviation and space, contributing meaningfully to the climate solutions over the next decade?
Absolutely. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We have this very unique vantage point of our planet. And I think that there's a couple of things that happen, right? A handful of my friends have had the privilege of going up into low Earth orbit, and some on the space station, and coming back and really reflecting the overview effect of there are no borders, water resources. They don't care about the sort of these made up boundaries that we have created here on our planet. And so really thinking holistically about what the planet is, what it's offering us, and what we're doing to it. I think there is a lot to be done still, and a lot to learn. The thing that I found is that data for the sake of data is not going to be as helpful as really working with the end users, working with the communities that have needs, and then deploying technologies as a suite of responses or a suite of solutions in a way that works for the communities that need that information. So we can go up and we can look all we want, we can analyze and collect the data, and come up with all kinds of amazing solutions. But if they can't be implemented by the people that need that information the most, then we've missed our mark. So I think I would be more of a call to action to our community to think about how we can be in response to the needs of our global communities. And we can design any technology that anyone needs, right? Like that's we're really good at that. But let's think about how we design the technology that people actually need to make a positive change.
Yeah, so in the next 5 years, how do you see other things other than technology? So let's say like business or policy, regulation, or even talent, like this next generation. How do you see those different things like kind of shifting over the next 5 years?
Oh, I love this question. I mean, I think it's we are going to need skill sets that we have never thought about as being in the space industry before. Obviously, policy has been a cornerstone of the work that we've done. Legal has been a cornerstone of the work that we've done. Medical, to the degree that we're sort of thinking kind of about some of our top tier human specimens that we've been sending to space. We're in the goal of being a spacefaring civilization. We are going to need a lot of different kinds of medical services. We are going to need psychological services. We are going to need accessibility. I have one of my brookies started Sci Access, and it is amazing. Aero Astro program it's out of control. What they're thinking about doing is just makes my brain explode in the best possible way. They're actually finding better business solutions by looking at the human factors of space flight through the lens of accessibility, and it's absolutely magnificent. Biologists, I've got brookies that are have completed PhDs and Martian biology, and how are we going to think about providing food? What are we going to do for entertainment? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to transit? What time is it on the moon? Like the data elements of this, the communications elements of this, the storage and processing, obviously the transportation. I mean, it's such an exciting time to think about the industries that we need to kick the door open to and bring them into the space industry. And I think you and your generation are going to be tremendously well served by thinking now about how you can bring your unique skills and up to and including communication, which is something that thankfully we are seeing more and more of. Translating the why of what we do, the how, the ways to encourage and engage people around these topics is it's absolutely critical in order to continue the growth that we've enjoyed in the commercial space community and as we look beyond.
So let's say you were the mentor for our audience or anyone who's watching this right now. And the people that are watching this are, including me, are going into the aerospace industry today. Like, given all the changes, what's like a skill or even like a mindset that you think is the most
Yeah.
critical?
Oh, I love this question. So go look at the Brooke Owens Fellowship application. It will put you in the mindset. It
Okay.
will ask you the challenging questions. It will get you thinking creatively how to express yourself. Um, you know, there are a lot of people that can go and get an aerospace engineering degree and be in a rocket club and come out and make massive contributions to this community. But as we were talking about, we need all the other kinds of people. We need all the other kinds of people that are willing to bring their talents and their interests forward in service of our global aerospace community and our global aviation community. I mean, we are thinking and planning and designing for futures that are going to require all the elements of humanity, and some elements of physiology that we haven't even dreamed up yet. So this is the time. I mean, I cannot tell you how different this is from when I graduated college in terms of what is being offered or what you can go make, right? You
Yeah.
can go make the space for what it is that you want to contribute to this community. And we're going to need it. And that it's going to be a very valuable thing.
Yeah. So, so are there any ways you feel that your network or your mentoring efforts could link with what we're doing at World of Aerospace?
Oh goodness, yes. I mean, part of the fellowship community that's been created over the last 10 years, part of what is expected of that group of folks is that they turn around and bring in the next generation, right? So how do you go out and represent yourself and sort of these ideas around acceptance and innovation and belonging and opportunities and bring up the next generation of talent that we're going to need in those kind of thinkers. And so I would encourage anyone that is looking for a personal mentor or wants to be a part of one of these communities to apply. for the fellowships, or just go on our websites. You can see all of our active fellows and our alums, and they are raising their hand to be a part of, you know, the mentor community. We also have our executive mentors that are on there, and these are all folks that have volunteered their time and have stepped forward to be recognized as people that are also looking to be of service of our next generation.
Yeah.